that's not the vision that I have for myself. I believe that I'll have an opportunity, right, to get into the show if I show up. There's a skill in showing up. There's a skill in being consistent. There's a skill in doing 8 shows a week. You hear the applause, you see the costumes, you see the makeup, and you kind of think, oh my God, this is what I want to do. But no one really talks about what it is like day to day.
A quick note. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are entirely their own and don't reflect those of the Stronger Self podcast, Sammy Arts Collective, T Films, or anyone involved in making this show. We're here to hold space for honest conversations, and that means our guests speak freely. We hope you do the same. Hi everyone, and welcome to our very first episode of The Stronger Self. I'm your host Martay McKenzie, and this series is all about the idea of stronger self and how the challenges, uncertainty and resilience of working in the arts can actually shape you into a more grounded and resilient artist over time. And I couldn't think of a better person to start this with than David Blake himself, creative director, leadership mentor and advisor, and also has his own dance company called Blake Arts. David, thank you so much for joining me on the couch today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me, you were born and raised in Jamaica. What was that like growing up?
It was very interesting. I mean, as you know, music, culture, and dance are like a part of the Jamaican environment, and just being able to have that kind of like space to just like to be free, to be expressive was just really wonderful. I would say I had a great childhood growing up. We no longer do this anymore, but we would play outside, right? We'd play outside barefoot. We would run around the streets, and it was just a lot of fun. I had that opportunity to just be free and to just be expressive.
So tell me, what was it like then growing up as a child who always knew, I guess, that you wanted to dance? Was that always in your blood? And how was that received from your parents, or culturally, how was that received growing up as a young boy?
You know what was interesting? I remember my dad taking me to the North Coast, taking my mom and my other brother to the North Coast for like a city break. And I remember being on the resort, and there was like a mentor band that was playing, and I would always go and dance with them. And as they walked around the beach and performed for the different guests, I would always be in front of them dancing, right? And I remembered my mother telling me a story about this woman coming up to her and saying, one day your son is going to be on Broadway.
And your son has been on the West End.
It's interesting, right? It's so interesting. And we had that conversation a week ago because, you know, I've been here in the UK for 20 years.
Wow.
So we're just kind of reflecting on all of those things that took place over the years.
Okay, so obviously you grew up in Jamaica. We're now 20 years in London. So what's happened between growing up in Jamaica and now being in London?
When I left Jamaica, I moved to LA to pursue my bachelor's degree. I just thought to myself, if I'm going to pursue this kind of creative kind of life, I think I should understand the kind of the business aspects around it. So I thought doing a marketing degree was a good choice. While I was out there, I had opportunities to perform. I had opportunities to teach. And I think one of my greatest moments living in LA was being in the Dreamgirls film. My brother had a girlfriend, right? And she was an actress. And she came home one day and she said, look, they're looking for actors. Go down to downtown LA and just stand in line.
Right.
And I jumped in my car and I went down there. I stood in the line and I saw the casting director just walking around and picking people.
Yeah.
And she chose 6 guys and I was one of them. You know, in Jamaica, being a dancer is not a viable career option. Nobody's saying, oh, one day you're going to be a dancer, right? But they're saying one day you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? And especially my brothers, like one of my brothers, he's a research scientist. My other brother, you know, he's in IT, and the other one, he's in finance, and you have me, who's a performing artist. But the saving grace is my mom's brother was an actor in Canada.
Right. But also, let's talk about your cousin.
Okay.
Because am I right in saying that your cousin is Johan Blake?
Yes, that's correct.
Right. So as a dancer and as an athlete like he is, there's got to be a parallel there, right?
Well, that's a very interesting point because the Jamaican culture looks at sports and performing arts very differently.
Right.
There's a lot of support given to athletes, right, in a very different way than the support is given to performers. You know, when I think about my family and the family dynamics and how they see arts versus sports, it really reflects the wider society. Because Jamaicans, you know, they're very supportive of sports. My dad, when he was alive, would be at the stadium cheering him on.
Right.
You know, my mom would be watching television and she's texting me and saying, "Do you see the race? Did you see this? Did you see that?" And I'm on stage performing and always asking me,
okay,
how is your performance going?
Right.
So there's a different kind, but it's fine. It's fine because culture, that's exactly how it is. And I'm not there to change the culture. Right. I'm there to do what I need to do for myself. But I was also very supportive of my cousin as well, because I think it's phenomenal that he has done so well. So
you've moved from Jamaica to LA, and now we are David Blake in London. When you arrived, did you have a plan, or was it like, I've just heard that London is this amazing place where there's opportunities for people? Actually, when I was about to graduate from Cal State in Los Angeles, this is maybe 2005, I think it was. I got an email from someone in Jamaica that said, "Hey, Lion King is coming to Jamaica, and I think you should come out for the audition." Okay. Right? And so I messaged my dad and I said, "Look, I'm coming up to the end of my course. I'm graduating in July. And I think I really have a great shot of getting into Lion King if I fly to Jamaica. If I do it in LA, competition. If I do it in New York, there'll just be loads of people. It's like a cattle call." Yeah. So I remember my father coming back to me and saying, "Look, I don't want, 20 years, 30 years down the line, you say I never helped you to fulfill your dream." And so he got me that ticket, right? And it's so interesting that you asked me the question, because I remember a friend of mine in Jamaica saying, "Don't come to Jamaica. Really? Don't come. They're not going to take anyone. They came here the last time, they took no one. Don't come." And I thought to myself, well, that's not the vision that I have for myself. I believe that I'll have an opportunity, right, to get into the show if I show up. Right. Right. So I flew to Jamaica, didn't tell anybody, went and did the audition, and never heard anything for 8 months or 9 months. And I remember emailing the producer and said, "Look, I'm still available if you should need someone. I'm here." Right. Okay. And then last minute, I think the guy who was the track I replaced, he decided last minute that he was going to leave the contract. And so they contacted me. Right. You see that? Manifestation at its best. Wow. So obviously, you get into the Lion King. Yeah. And how many years were you in the show for? In total, 17 consecutive years. Ooh. Okay. So how can you sustain 8 shows a week, every day, maybe missing out on key events with family, friends? How does a performer navigate through that? Well, the first thing is, coming here, it was a mindset, right? I was starting a new chapter in my life. Yeah, I lived in Jamaica, I lived in Los Angeles, and I'm coming to London, a new space to grow and develop, right? And so when I got here, first of all, any kind of space you go into, you have to observe first. Of course. Yeah. And you have to kind of get a sense of what the culture is like and where you fit in that space. When I arrived, I started to kind of notice certain things. I started to notice, the leadership, what that looked like. Right. I started to notice the personalities in the space and see where I would fit in. Yeah. Right. That whole ecosystem was very, very important. And so I started to kind of renew my mind around how I would kind of fit in. The good thing about coming from Jamaica is that there was discipline that was instilled in my whole development as an artist. I started as an ensemble. Okay. Right. I started as a dancer in the show. And that in itself was quite hard, right? Because you have the show plus the rehearsals. Yeah. And if something isn't right, you have to show up for that as well to fix, whether it's technical or otherwise, right? You have vocal, you have storytelling, and you have the dance calls. And at the time I was part of the show, those things were very intense, especially the dancing, because there was an integrity that came with being a part of the dancing ensemble. Yeah. In the Lion King, the vocabulary, how we executed the moves, right? And we had a dance supervisor who had a strong hand on all of those things. I know who you're talking about. Right. Yes. And so, so you had to kind of navigate all of that. But then when I was given the opportunity to become an understudy, that was a different responsibility. Okay. I began to see how I could progress in the Lion King. For those that don't know what an understudy is, because there will be people listening and watching who don't know what an understudy is. What is that? What does that mean? What do you have to do? An understudy is a person who has to step in at the shortest notice to cover a lead role in the show. And at one point, I had 2 understudies. I needed to be ready to navigate either roles. I remember being on stage as an understudy for Banzai. Yeah.
And by the time the interval came, I needed to switch out to become Mufasa because the Mufasa went off. And, as you know, in that show, Mufasa is in the first act.
Yes, he is.
And then he does a voiceover in the second act. Yes. So, you just have to be ready for that, which was quite exciting. And I think that was my motivation of kind of like continue to be a part of The Lion King because of that kind of experience. So by the time I was given the opportunity to audition for the Banzai role, I became very excited. But, even for that, I think I auditioned for the Banzai role, for the lead role, maybe once or twice. And I remember that time when I thought I was going to get it, I didn't get it. But what was interesting about that is that when I was given the call 1 week to say I didn't get it, the week later, I got a call that said, David, we told you no.
Right.
But the Banzai who's supposed to be coming in has broke his foot. Can you step into the role? I mean,
this is the second time now that something is like, David, it's not for you. David, it is for you.
Right. So, which was very interesting. But the thing is, I had to remember, and this is why, I always encourage the people that I mentor. I said, be very careful about how you react to things, respond to things, don't react. Because don't forget, I was contracted to The Lion King as an understudy. So even though I didn't get the principal role, I was still an understudy.
Yeah.
So if they call and said, could you fill in for the person, even though the person hasn't started yet, I still have to cover.
Of course.
But it was in that moment that I knew I'd get the part eventually.
Wow. I love that. And also, I guess, because let's talk about this. Okay. Mufasa currently and has been playing for 18 years is Sean Escoffrey.
Right.
So also, how is that like being an understudy to a role that is really solidified because it's Sean who's playing this role? And is there a nervousness about that? Like, oh my gosh, I've got to step into those shoes, or you take it and you make it your own? Like,
one of the things I do is like if I'm understudying someone, I get to know them. And so you have that connection with that person off stage, which is important. So by the time you're going to cover their role, you're so empowered. You feel so proud to be doing it because you know this person very well. And also you want to also live up to expectations because of the greatness of this person, the brilliance of this person. And so stepping to the role, it was an honor every time to play the role of Mufasa.
So moving on from The Lion King, it felt like the most natural thing for you to go from the show to then be the director at Urdang. You've been there, you've done it, you know what it takes, you know what they will need to move on to something like the West End. What was your transition and how was that transition for you?
I'll tell you the truth. Look, I wanted to do 20 years in The Lion King and then I would write my book and then I'd just do a book tour. So this opportunity came out of nowhere.
Right.
I didn't expect any of this. Okay, but I thought maybe God is saying to me, look, you've done the work up to this point. I'm going to try to challenge you now and to push you further, right? I just thought that I would be given this kind of like wider platform to really develop, emerging artists coming into the space, especially coming from my experience in Lion King for all those years and seeing all of those dancers and performers coming in. So it was very sad, right, leaving the show. I remember my last day on the show talking to the cast, and I remember, and I probably should say this to you right now, that thank you so much for your support.
Please don't make me tear up.
No. But just say
on my first podcast, David, because honestly, it was a sad day.
No. But thank you for your support, because we had a wonderful connection and we worked very well together.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so I was really confused. I wasn't even prepared because going from performing into that director role, it was just immediate.
Yeah.
Right. Because I had like less than 4 weeks after I had left that day to take on a role as a director. No one really teaches you how to step in a leadership role from being a performer.
Yeah.
Right? And so I had to, again, learn on the job, seek mentorship, seek guidance, and ask lots of questions. What was really fortunate for me is that the original Birdman for The Lion King was a dance director at a university.
Ah.
Right? He had already made that journey. So I was asking him for guidance and support. And that's why today when I'm supporting, emerging leaders into these kind of creative positions, I'm able to provide the support and the guidance and the awareness and the understanding.
But it's the fact that you were able just to step into that role, David, honestly. Like, not everybody could make that transition. And I think that's what's so special about you. And you're always very, very giving of yourself to other performers, younger performers. What would be your advice for anybody now of the younger generation wanting to pursue a career in the arts?
I would say really understand your identity. So when you go into the work of the creative arts, you don't lose that in the work. You actually bring that into the work, because what tends to happen is that because you don't know who yourself, you get tossed to and fro. And then people can manipulate, take advantage of you. And then sometimes you make decisions that you regret. And so this whole kind of process of knowing yourself, but then having the right kind of mentorship and guidance to support you along your journey.
I know from my personal experience, like growing up with just me and my mom, she's carrying 4 jobs and, you know, she keeps going. Like, even if she's tired, there's things she has to do to support a child.
Right.
And I think seeing that growing up has given me that kind of resilience to never stop, keep going. And I know we've had conversations about how kind of we want to set an example. We go to the gym, we do rehab, we do all of these things. It's not just about showing up and doing 8 shows a week. There's so much other things that go on in the background.
If you're going to mentor someone, you have to make sure that you are in order.
Absolutely.
Right? You have
Absolutely.
to make sure that you can also exemplify those qualities and all those kind of guidance and support that you're providing for a mentee, for example. They have to see that in you consistently.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a skill in showing up. There's a skill in being consistent. There's a skill in doing 8 shows a week.
Let's say you've studied a BA in musical theatre,
Okay.
and you finally get into the show of your dreams, and then you go, oh my God, I didn't know it was this hard, because I guess some people make it look easy, but as we know, it's not. It's after the show, when you're in the theatre and you're still foam rolling and you've got your massage gun and you're doing the gym in the morning like you would do your woodcutters and all this kind of
Right.
stuff. Like, so I think people go into that space thinking, yeah, this is it. And then they realise this is hard.
You're right. There is a misconception about what an actual performing arts career, or, you know, being in a West End show looks like, because you hear the applause, you see the costumes, you see the makeup, and you kind of think, oh my God, this is what I want to do. But no one really talks about what it is like day to day.
Yeah.
The day to day is where the issues are. Are you ready for that day to day experience? Getting into a West End show is about 6 to 8 weeks of rehearsals.
Yes.
Week 3, people are injured.
Before they've even done opening night.
You're not injured because you can't do it. You're injured because you weren't prepared for even the rehearsal.
Do you think that preparation, though, should come from you as a performer? You take that upon yourself, or should that preparation come from whichever show you're in? Because I personally feel like there should be, okay, you're going to be doing this role and this is what it requires and this is the prep that you need to do before you step even onto the stage. So 3 months before, or when you first get that call saying, job's yours, this is what you're going to need before you even come into this space. Whether that's you go to physio, you get some prehab, is that even a thing? Prehab.
Prehab.
But you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I feel like there needs to be that prep beforehand, especially if it's your first show. You have to find your moments, of course, but hard work and resilience will get you through a lot of things in life.
You're right. As part of the resilience and the hard work, we need to also include that kind of mental health and well-being.
Yes.
Right? You want to show them, on this hand, here is the work that needs to be done. You need to continue to have a curious mind about how you show up, and an openness as well, but also know when to stop and give yourself the grace to reflect and to heal and to renew your mind. All of those things is finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny how I'm speaking like this, because before I would tell you the truth, and I can say this, I was like a robot. I would just operate.
Yeah.
Right? Operate. And if it's not right, I'm going to fix it until it gets right.
Yeah.
I can tell you, because I was a go person. And sometimes I was at the law of diminishing returns, where I had nothing else to offer, but I had to show up anyway. But I think COVID-19 taught me about pace. It taught me about patience, right? And it taught me about reflection, how important all those elements are in terms of your own practice. I did a project called Melanin Migration Brothers in Arms in 2020. That was a project that came out of the pandemic, where it was
Yes.
supporting men in mental health and well-being, career strategic management, and financial literacy.
Can we touch on that? Because
sure.
I know you, Melanin Migrations, I've seen the film that was made as well.
Yes.
And I think it's really, really, really important. I'm quite passionate about this. Black men not really talking about mental health issues. And that was something that was touched upon in this project that you did throughout the pandemic. Why did you feel that was really important to raise that awareness as well?
Because of the isolation that we were now in, right? You know, you're biased. I lived by myself, so I was by myself the entire time. And it was quite difficult. And so I thought it was important to create a space where these men could have conversations that they would normally have with themselves or with other people. And so you felt as if, especially, coming out of George Floyd and that what happened then, there was a greater awareness around what that conversation would look like.
Absolutely.
I think with what we created was done very, very well. We created that dance film, as you said, but I think it was more helping these men to understand that what could life look beyond the stage, what life could look beyond the pandemic. And if we don't go back on stage, what could you do for yourself?
Yeah.
How could you pivot? Yeah.
This is the word, right? Pivot. And I think that's what we're trying to sort of show people within Sammy Arts Collective, is that you can pivot. It's not just about, I sing, dance and act, which, as we know in this profession, it's all about being that triple threat.
Right.
But you can have a life beyond just singer, dancer, actor. You can go behind the camera, in front of the camera, be a director at Urdang. There's a lot of other things that I feel sometimes we can be put into a box.
Right.
And you might say, well, actually, I'm a great script writer. Where would you go if somebody only has ever seen you as a dancer or a performer? Like, would you be taken seriously in another space? And I think that's really important, that you don't have to just be one thing, or as a singer, you don't just have to do one style. And I think that's why we wanted to get you on the couch today, because you have done so many other things.
But I only just recently discovered this over the last couple of years of finding that balance. It took me a while to get there. But having the working with younger people and trying to help them to navigate that space, you realize that your mind is being renewed, because you can't teach them how you used to do things. Yeah. You have to meet them where they're at and what resources and guidance that they need so that they can show up consistently. Because if you think about our generation, we had taskmasters.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No. Yep. Yes. No. You go. No. Stop. No. Go.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay. Okay. Exactly.
I will be there.
Right. And so it's different now, which it's interesting about who you can see yourself when you're like 18. I know you see yourself at a different age. You're like, wow, time has really flown by.
So what would you tell yourself then? The 18-year-old David, or what about the 10-year-old David?
Take your time.
Right.
Don't rush about anything. Everything will happen in its time for you. Right. You have to just make sure you just be patient and be open to receive and to be guided. Yeah. And because the thing is, when you're 18, you think that you're this grown person. Who do you think you are?
Big man.
Exactly. And nobody can tell you anything. Right. I remembered this musical director that I had in Jamaica, and I was complaining about something. And he said, David, let me just give you one advice. You can learn something from anybody. You can learn something from anyone.
Absolutely. Even from children.
Exactly.
Right. Because I'm sure growing up in Jamaica, like I'm Jamaican heritage, and know in Jamaica, it's big people conversation.
Right.
A big people attack, know?
Right.
But I feel like it's so important that even if a child is young, they will always teach you something.
100%.
You can always learn.
Absolutely.
From whatever generation it is.
Absolutely.
So when you hear the words stronger self, what does stronger self mean for you? What does that conjure up for you?
Being grounded, I think, standing in your truth, knowing your identity, and knowing what you stand for. I
love that. David Blake, thank you so much for joining me on the couch. It's been so
Martay.
Lovely. It's been fantastic. Thank you for sharing everything with us.
Yeah.
And until next time. You've been listening to the Stronger Self podcast, hosted by Martay McKenzie and produced by Sammy Arts Collective, filmed and edited by T Films. The Stronger Self podcast is part of Sammy Arts Collective's Creative Futures program and created in collaboration with T Films. Find us on social media at Sammy Arts Collective.